You're listening to the Plane Talking UK podcast, the UK-based podcast written by a passenger for anyone. And here are your hosts, Carla Stebbings, Matt Smith and Neville Bounds.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 239 of the Plane Talking UK podcast. I'm Carl Stebbings and I am on my own this week in the PTUK studio because Matt, he's gone away on his hollybobs, and we've let him, me and Nev, very kindly let Matt have a couple of weeks off. But don't panic, because he is with us via the realms of marvellous campsite Wi-Fi. So welcome onto the show, Matt Smith.
Hello, fancy seeing.
Oh, and the signal went a bit there, but there we go. You're there. How are you, Matt?
Yeah, it sounds about right. Yeah, hanging on for dear life, frankly. It's as you say, it's campsite Wi-Fi, so goodness only knows what's going to.
Oh, blimey! Isn't it typical? We've been talking about sort of 10 minutes before we started the show, and Matt's Wi-Fi has kept the signal really good. And the minute we want to talk to Matt, everything just goes to pot. But how are things? How are things in the caravan of love?
The what now?
Sorry, it's an 80s song.
Yes,
it's an 80s song.
Yeah, right. No, it's mobile. It's Studio 2, isn't it? It's with the terrible Wi-Fi. It's not. The weather's been amazing. It's a really nice place to be. An amazing campsite. Highly recommended if anybody wants to come to North Norfolk. Then West Runton is the place to be. I tell you, because it is Spitting's different sort of distance away from Cromer, Sheringham, Holt. You know, it's great. The local train station is literally at the end of the drive. So we're going to head into Sheringham tomorrow and have a beer or two because nobody's got to drive, which is going to be awesome.
The only problem is, though, Matt, that you have got a slight issue with a lack of 4G or 3G or 2G or any G signal.
I haven't got any mobile phone signal at all. I think it's the first time since I bought my phone about 2 years ago where I have in the top left-hand corner the word "no service." I don't know what this means.
Next thing you know, you're going to be changing networks again, Matt, to, I don't know.
I can't see that happening anytime soon. Anyway.
What's it? Yeah. But not forgetting our other awesome co-host of the show who's joining us this week from his stately manor. And welcome onto the show, Neville Bounds.
Yes, hello, everybody. Slight man flu today, but I think we'll get through the show. Been a bit of a hectic week. I've been mixing it with strange people, so I've obviously picked up something. So
oh dear.
I'm trying to soldier on nonetheless.
I said the general public are a nightmare, aren't they? It doesn't pay to go anywhere near them if you could at all help it.
I try and steer clear of the great unwashed wherever I can, but no, I think we should be all right. Plenty of vitamin C and a bit of lemon. Should be fine.
Any flying this week, Nev, or you been UK?
No, but I was at the Mercedes F1 factory yesterday in Brackley in Northamptonshire, and that was great. We're doing some filming there. Got some really good stuff. That was a great day out, and really enjoyed it. But it's very hard work, humping all the gear around and what have you. But no, it was good stuff, but quite tiring, I have to say. But
yes, I bet.
Yes.
So we've got loads of stuff to go through in the show this week, loads of great news stories, and we've also got a bit of audio or video feedback actually from Ray Davis from the Warbirds air show that he went to last weekend. We've also got a NPE segment from Nev, and that's going to have Barbara in that. And what else we got on coming up later on segment-wise? Refresh my memory.
Some reporting in from Mr. Ray Davis.
Ah, yes, that's it.
From his air show stuff,
That's
which was awesome. He's got some really nice stuff to show us as well. So looking forward to that.
So we are going to start the show then, as we do each week, with our rundown of the weekly news from around the world and the UK. So if you're ready, Matt.
Your fingers crossed, praying, worshipping all gods.
And if you're ready, Nev.
Yes, as always.
Let's go. So, kicking off this week's first news story, and this one is on the Guardian.com, the Porsche newspaper here in the UK. And the headline is sad news because we have lost another airline this week. And it's one we actually featured on the show probably about 2 years ago when the airline first started. And Cobalt Air has ceased all operations. The Cypriot carrier ceased all operations this week and also asked travellers not to travel to airports. It cancelled all its flights indefinitely and suspended operations, advising customers not to go to airports. Cobalt, which was based at Larnaca Airport in Cyprus, had operated since 2016. Flew to 23 destinations in the UK and out towards Cyprus, and the airline also operated flights at Heathrow, Stansted, Gatwick and Manchester here in the UK. It cancelled all flights from 11:50 p.m. on Wednesday night, and the airline said in a statement on its website. In a later statement quoted by the Cyprus Mail newspaper, Cobalt said it had called in the administrators after failing to secure long-term funding. The collapse leaves thousands of customers either stranded abroad or with their future travel plans in tatters. It's great, with great regret, they said, that we must inform that that Cobalt Air will cease all operations as of midnight on 17th of October 2018 and enter into administration process after 2 years and 3 months of operations, the statement read. It's a sad day for all employees and passengers of Cobalt Air. The company has been working relentlessly during the past months to secure long-term financing for the airline. The Cypriot Transport Minister, Vasiliki Anastasiadou, well, I pronounced that one really badly there, pledged state support for those stranded in Cyprus or overseas and said telephone numbers will be announced to help passengers. Cobalt's demise comes after Danish budget carrier Temora Air collapsed early this month, and the UK regional airline Flybe warned this week of mounting annual losses, blaming weaker consumer demand and higher fuel prices. It's such a shame, I have to say, guys, because this airline, when it started, was supposed to kind of replace the actual country's national flag carrier.
I tell you what, I don't understand about this, because Cyprus is such a popular destination, particularly from people from the UK and from Germany. You would have thought that they could have filled every single one of those flights almost regardless of what they charged for it. So I don't understand why they've not been successful.
Do you think possibly they hadn't pitched the price right, though? Do you think that's what it is? People are using other carriers because they're just too expensive?
Yep, and obviously if they're not getting the load factor, then that's a problem, isn't it? But I'm very surprised because it's such a popular destination, and I really don't know why they've not managed to make it work.
It is such a shame because obviously this is jobs as well as for people. I think they had some representatives in the UK, obviously based here for the airline, and obviously the pilots as well, who are flying for the airline. I think they leased all their aircraft. They had an all Airbus fleet, and they leased, but they did have some kind of bits in play, ready to do a kind of long haul using the Airbus A330. But obviously,
I suppose this is one of the possible problems over everybody having like lease hire stuff, though, because essentially it makes it very difficult to value the company, doesn't it? Because essentially they don't have any assets other than like the landing slots, if you like, they've got at the airports, because I know those can be quite valuable. But if they haven't got, if they don't physically own the aeroplanes, it must be very difficult to know what a company is worth, if you like, when it comes to turnover and things like that.
What do you reckon, Nev?
Yeah, and I think with these routes, obviously people do a lot of research. Well, you hope they do a lot of research about how popular the route is going to be, how much money they're going to make on it, what their overheads are going to be. But of course, you don't actually know what it's going to be until you start operating the route. And sometimes I think there's a lot of competition. Philip Davis mentioned in the chat room being undercut by TUI. And it's all about the price, really. We're now got this big sort of thing about low-cost flying, and if the price is too high, people will not go. And especially if they're taking a family of 4 or 5, makes a massive difference, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, and if there isn't the alternative there, then people won't, look elsewhere for it, will they? For a flight. But if you've got somebody going, two planes going to the same place and one is significantly cheaper than the other, then unless you're in business class and you're not worried about the price, of course you're going to go with a cheaper airline.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see, actually, guys, what will happen here in regards to, obviously, because like we said, Cyprus is a ever popular destination. It is quite a popular destination, especially for UK people. It'd be interesting to see what airlines will possibly take up the slack, as in lay more flights on to Cyprus, say EasyJet or even possibly Ryanair, or one of the other carriers.
So with this being obviously, again, it's another airline that isn't based here in the UK. What about those people who are already out there now that this airline has sort of ceased? Do they have a similar sort of atoll type sort of thing that we do here?
Yeah, the protection in place. I think there was something said online this week that there was a couple of airlines that had kind of taken up the kind of help to fly people home.
Fly everyone home. Yeah,
there was also for people who had booked direct with the airline and not without any protection, obviously by credit cards and stuff. There was I forget the airline now. There was one of the airlines. I'm sure it was a UK-based airline. It could possibly have been EasyJet or another airline, Thomas Cook or one of those. But they had also offered incredibly cheap flights to people stuck in Cyprus to get them home, which is is nice, But interesting to see what will happen there. But Nev, moving on, the next story is one especially for you.
Yeah, I think if I was going to put this in a category, I'd put this in a category called First World Problems. It's on the telegraph.co.uk. It says competition winners bumped after British Airways oversold once-in-a-lifetime flight. A woman and her mother who won 2 business-class flights to anywhere in the world missed out on a once-in-a-lifetime chance to fly in luxury when British Airways oversold the flight and bumped the pair down to a lower-grade cabin. Jessica Lowry, who won the competition, run by Flight Centre last year, arrived at London Heathrow with her mother Laura for a flight to Singapore in Club World, but sensed something was wrong when they were unable to check in at an automated desk and had to join a queue at a manned desk. This is when we started to worry, said Jessica, who decided to use the prize to take her mother to Bali via Singapore for a 2-week holiday. We overheard a woman telling a family that BA had oversold their flight to Oslo. And I thought, how can they oversell flights? Well, we eventually got to the front and a woman scanned our coupons, which we had been given at the desk. She called someone and was silent for what felt like 15 minutes. We could tell bad news was coming. The member of staff then told the mother and daughter that the flight had been oversold and that there was no Club World seats available. So they had been downgraded to, shock horror, premium economy. Wow. Oh. I was just in disbelief, said Jessica. Probably the one chance in our lives to fly in luxury, and we weren't able to because BA had oversold. We went from buzzing excitement to utter disappointment. Passengers in Club World experienced seats that convert into fully flat beds, as well as white company bedding, lavish 3-course meals, and a range of complimentary drinks. I'm sure they wanted to hear this. Premium Economy or World Traveller Plus provides guests with wider seats and a little more legroom. The couple were later told at the gate by 2 airline staff that as they were guests of BA, they would be the first to be bumped and would not receive compensation. Passengers, paying customers would have been offered cash or an alternative flight. We got on the plane and were sat directly behind Club World, which was a bit of a kick in the teeth. Being able to see, almost touch what we could have had, said Jessica. British Airways says that it simply provides flights to Flight Centre, which ran the competition, and it clearly states that in the terms and conditions that promotional travel is not guaranteed in the requested cabin. Well, there you go.
Yes, that is completely true. I do get that. It's not exactly guaranteed, and it's a free. It's essentially a free flight, however you dress it up. But again, you do worry about the PR department at BA sometimes, don't you? I mean, it's one gaffe after another, isn't it?
Well, the only thing I would say about that, and I'm trying to just be sort of reasonably balanced here. A Club World ticket to Singapore is terribly expensive. And obviously the airline have to make the revenue that they can. They could have handled this slightly better, though, possibly. But premium economy to Singapore isn't a bad experience, I wouldn't have thought.
No.
And they do overbook the flights because they have, what is it, between 8 and 12% no-show very often. So just occasionally, when everybody does get on at the same time, they have to shuffle people around or actually bump them off the flight altogether. So.
Indeed, and you could argue, of course, it's better that they still got to go on their trip rather than being bumped off the plane completely, which could also have happened. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I think if in that situation, if they had been promised, the to fly in that class like a guarantee, then you would be a little bit annoyed. I think if you're promised something like that. Yeah. But as
I can understand why they're disappointed. Don't get me wrong. I understand why they're disappointed, but as you say, at the end of the day, it was, they were competition winners, and the airline has still got to make a profit, I suppose, isn't it? I guess. Yeah.
Yes. So while you're there, Matt, you've got the next story, and it's a worrying part we just mentioned earlier.
Indeed, yes. Good luck, everyone. Here we go. So this is on the Coventry Live website, and the headline is Budget Airline Flybe issues worrying profit warnings ahead of a £12 million loss, which is not the news we want to hear, is it really? For us, I think, Flybe flies out of Norwich, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. It does, flies out there, and Southend.
Yes, indeed. So anyway, Budget Airline Flybe has issued a profit warning saying it expects to make a £12 million loss this year. That's a really big number, isn't it? The group, which operates many flights out of Birmingham to locations such as Madrid, Amsterdam and Hamburg, said that it had been hit by a fall in consumer demand. The profit warning of a £12 million pre-tax loss for 2018/19 is still an improvement on the previous financial year when it posted a loss of £19.2 million. This includes an estimated £29 million impact from weaker sterling, fuel and carbon prices. In a statement to the stock exchange today, the airline said Flybe had seen good revenue performance in the first half, set back of increasingly adverse fuel and currency impacts. Recent trading, however, indicates a softening in the second half revenue outlook, and the board now expects the full year adjusted profit figure to be lower than market expectations. Flybe has reduced capacity this year to focus on popular routes, increasing revenue per seat by 6.8% and reducing capacity by 10%. The statements added that consumer demand in domestic and near-continent markets has weakened in recent weeks, and the board now expects this to continue into the second half. This, together with higher fuel prices and weaker sterling, will impact the expected H2 profit performance. Chief Executive Christine says, we have made progress in driving our unit revenues across the summer, but we are now seeing a softening in the market. We were reviewing further capacity and cost-saving measures while continuing to focus on delivering our sustainable business improvement plan. Discipline is starting to have a positive impact, but we aim to do more in the coming months and remain confident our strategy will improve performance. It is a worrying. It doesn't sound like it's the end just yet, certainly.
No,
but these are quite significant losses, aren't they? Is it sort of £19 million the year before, £12 million this year? It's how long can they continue to sustain it?
Yeah, I say Flybe used to fly from Norwich, Matt. They don't fly from Norwich anymore. They're operating bases mostly all around the UK, including Southend, Southampton, some of the bigger airports.
It's KLM I'm thinking of, isn't it?
But I think they did used to fly from Norwich, and one of the reasons that I think they pulled out was because no one used them. The main reason being because they were so expensive. They were really expensive, unfortunately, from here.
But then some of that may have been, of course, they were incurring, if you like, because I know Norwich is rather renowned for being a little bit expensive to use.
I've got an idea, though, with regard to Norwich. What about somebody, either KLM or Flybe or somebody, running sort of 5 or 6 flights a day to Amsterdam Schiphol at a sensible price, not the 200 quid or the 150 quid, but maybe 60 quid or 70 quid, something like that, because I'm sure that they would get the load factor by running a lot of flights, because obviously Schiphol's such a big hub airport.
Well, our friend at Norwich may be able to correct us on this, but I do vaguely recall that at one time, and because it was Norwich International Airport, and you basically, if you could fly from Norwich to anywhere in the world, but it was literally via Schiphol, so you would go you would fly from Norwich to ski you wanted.
Yeah, it's one of those airlines as well. They use the Bombardier Dash 8 Q400, and I'm quite often in the afternoons. You can hear these flying, because they fly just actually over where we live, Matt, here in the lovely town of Bungay, and you can't miss these Dash 8s because they do have a distinctive sound as they fly over. Even at
Tony S in the chat room's been come up with a helpful suggestion. How about building some roads to Norwich?
Again, an excellent suggestion. I mean, we do have one, maybe A11, and that is it.
Oh, how rude!
I remember when the A11 was single carriageway almost all the way, and that was really painful, wasn't it?
That was, yeah. No, I'm not going to. It is now. It is now dualed all the way, of course. And I will say, I used the NDR, the Northern Road, coming to Cromer when we came up there, and that's rather sort of getting to places like Norwich Airport and like North Norfolk and things, because you can sort of bypass Norwich completely now. It's made it very civilised, and that's dual carriageway virtually up to the other end of Norwich. It's brilliant.
So moving on to the next story, and this one is on the traveller.com.au. The headline, transatlantic flight route, most popular aircraft and airlines, including the Boeing 747. So there's been many reports, as we have had in the show, about the slow death of the 747. Qantas phasing out their jumbo jets, and no American airline is still flying a passenger version of the largest Boeing aircraft. However, OAG's statistic suggests the jumbo jet is a mainstay of transatlantic travel for over 50 years. It will be gracing our skies for a few more years to come. A total of 4,667 transatlantic flights will use the model this winter, and up from 4,534 last year. That's almost as 3 times as many as the world record-breaking A380 Super Jumbo, which was launched to much fanfare in 2007. Both aircraft, however, were criticised last month by a report by the International Council on Clean Transportation, which said that the use of larger aircraft across the Atlantic led to BA being ranked bottom of 20 major airlines for fuel efficiency. Oh dear, Nev. Boeing rolled out the first 747, as we know, because it was a birthday recently of the Jumbo, on September the 30th, 1968, with the first commercial flight on January the 21st, 1970. The giant aircraft ushered in a new era of long-haul travel, flying further and faster than most of its predecessors. It also brought new levels of luxury to the sky, with premium passengers enjoying a bar and lounge on the upper deck with some of the carriers. Qantas will retire the last of their 6 747-400s by the end of 2020, as it increases its fleets of 787 Dreamliners to 14 that same year. The jumbo jet has been in the Qantas fleet in various forms since 1971. The humpback jet was the largest commercial aircraft to fly until the launch of the A380 in October 2007. The most popular models for services between Europe and North America are the A330, and used by the likes of Turkish Airlines and Delta, American and Lufthansa. And the Boeing 777, which is preferred by BA, which owns 58 of those. The 787 Dreamliner, favoured by Norwegian, comes in at number 3. So we have a little sneaking in a little top 10 here. I'm not going to play the jingle because that's just far too much pressing of buttons for me to do. But so in the top 10 we have, in at number 10 it's the 737. So this is the number of flights in 2018. So these are kind of the which is the amount of flights that will fly in the winter this year. So the 737, 1,297. You've got most of the Airbus fleet, 318, 319, 321s, 1,479. Most of the Airbus are in the top, or the bottom four, I should say, and then the Boeing kind of leading the way midway in 6th place with a 757, 2,605, all the way up to the top. In top place, just for Captain Nick, the A330, with 13,807 flights for the winter this year. So it's safe to say that the old the 747 will be around for some more years to come. It's not going anywhere soon. They are still making the Dash 8s, which mostly used for cargo, unfortunately. But it's definitely one of those awesome workhorses, Nev, that I think BA have really, really used and gotten a good kind of innings out of, wouldn't you say?
They've done really well on those routes, and considering they were competing, obviously, with the twin-engine aircraft, which would be less expensive to operate, you would have thought. But BA hopefully paid for these planes many years ago, and with a bit of a adjustment in fuel prices and stuff like that, with them hedging it as they do, I think that they'll get good utilisation out of it. I think they're running them now until 2024.
Oh, right.
I think they said. Is the final retirement of BA's 747 fleet. So yes, all the big Boeing stuff is up in the top 5 or 6 there, isn't it?
Mm. So Nev, the next story, while you're there, this one is for you. And Matt, you need to sit down and listen to this. I think you'll like this story.
Yes, I should read this in a sort of a calm fashion, really, shouldn't I? But it's on the clickorlando.com website. It says, nervous flyer, this airline will offer in-flight meditation. Are you one of those people who tightly grips the arms of the seat when your plane takes off, lands, and hits any bumps in the sky? One airline understands the reality that flying can make people nervous. Virgin Australia announced it will be assisting anxious flyers by offering in-flight meditation and dedicated on-board assistance. The airline partnered with Smiling Mind, a non-profit that offers meditation programs created by psychologists and educators to provide travellers a tool to help with their anxiety and focus on their well-being. Virgin Australia is very focused on supporting the mental health of its passengers and team members, and there are very few of us who haven't been directly or indirectly impacted by anxiety, Virgin founder Sir Richard Branson said in a statement. Virgin Australia officials said that they hope to enable the reduction of stress and anxiety during air travel, so much so that they will begin implementing the new program for staff outside flights. Integrating mindfulness into our everyday lives is just as important as eating well and exercising regularly. I'm so excited to see Virgin Australia deeply embedding mindfulness into the workplace and on board flights, Branson said. The airline announced that in addition to offering guided meditations early next year, passengers will be also able to have personalised communications with the airline staff in the lead up to their trip and face-to-face interactions whilst on board the plane to help combat travel-related anxiety before their journey. Dr. Addy Wooden, who's the CEO of Smiling Mind, said that the company would love to see every passenger use air travel to give their mind time to thrive. As little as a couple of minutes of meditation can improve our overall sense of calm and well-being during a flight, and what better time than in the air to meditate, she said. Airlines like United, JetBlue and American have recently begun implementing relaxation apps into their entertainment programming. Well, actually, I was going to sort of do something funny about that story, but in fact, it's actually quite a serious thing, and I think it's a great idea, isn't it, if it's going to help people. Matt, is this something which would appeal to you?
It's not something I've even thought about, to be honest.
I think meditation is quite a good thing. I could,
yeah,
it works. I mean, apparently, it does really work. Whether it would whether you'd enjoy it, Matt, I don't know. Perhaps you could try it.
Well, I mean, anything that's involves relaxation and chilling out on an aeroplane. So somewhere where I'm a great believer in saying never knock it until you've tried it. That I've never tried it, so I have no reason why it would not work. I can't see any reason why it wouldn't work. So, yeah, good luck to them. Yeah, next flight I'm on, I expect to be able to do exactly that.
So you'll be on the Virgin Australia flight then next, Matt, and book yourself some.
Sounds like a plan.
meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So moving on to the next story then, Matt, and this one is for you.
Yes, indeed. This is on the UKaviation.news website, and the headline is British Airways hosts student event to inspire future pilots. The British Airways has hosted an event for students aimed at inspiring the pilots of the future, taking place last night at the airline's headquarters near Heathrow. The Flying Futures event saw 100 students have the opportunity to try out flying in the state-of-the-art full-motion simulators used to train real pilots. The students were joined by pilots from across the airline, including First Officers Rebecca Panther and Amy Kirkham, and they spoke to students about the flight training and what's involved and what it means to be a pilot. They also set tasks for the students, focusing on the vital skills not normally associated with the role, such as teamwork and communication. British Airways Director of Flight Operations, Captain Al Brigger, said the whole team at British Airways is passionate about demonstrating to young people that flying really is a wonderful career, which is open to everyone. Through events like this, we are aiming to inspire the pilots of tomorrow, and with determination, they can succeed. Amy added that I love that through my role, I'm able to inspire girls and show them that they really can absolutely pursue a career in aviation. When I was growing up, I didn't see any female pilots in real life or in the media, but we know that visible role models are so important in changing the perception that is a man's world. It's most certainly a woman's too. The potential class of 2022 also got to experience life in the cabins seats with a virtual reality experience. So one of the students at Uxbridge Cottage who attended the event said, I've always wanted to be a pilot, but didn't really know where to start, as no one I know has ever flown a plane. It was amazing being able to speak to lots of female pilots at the event. They were all so helpful and gave me loads of advice, and you could tell that they all loved their job. I'm even more determined to make this my dream a reality now. Well, that is a very nice, positive story, isn't it?
Nice.
So it's bizarre, isn't it? You go from one extreme to the other with BA, don't you? You go to what I can only call as sort of social media gaffes constantly, you know, with their handling of the public. And then they do events like this, which are exactly what they should be doing, you know, inspiring people, encouraging, you know, especially women to sort of take up a role that is, let's be honest, regarded as a very male sort of role, and it shouldn't be.
No,
that's the long and the short of it. So I mean, well done to them for sort of putting on events like this, really.
Actually, one of the people I work with, and at the moment, you know, where I work now, he's booked a special gift for his daughter's birthday tomorrow, which is a trial flight at Beccles, where I learned to fly. And he's not told her. It's going to be a complete surprise for her tomorrow afternoon. But he's so excited to be, you know, have the opportunity to give his daughter this present for her birthday, to be able to you know, to obviously fly. And yeah, I can't wait to hear his feedback next week at work to see how she got on, because you know, it's things like that which I think give the youngsters now that kind of push to think, oh wow, this is awesome, I'm gonna, you know, possibly, you know, train to be a pilot and become a pilot when I get older. What do you think, Nev?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in the good old days when you used to be able to have the jump seat as well, I did that a long time ago. Not only did it help me cure my fear of flying, but inspired me to want to become a pilot, which, as you can see, hasn't happened. But at least I thought about it anyway.
Well, that's true.
So the next story, this is mine, isn't it? Are you all right there, Matt?
Yeah, fine. Oh. Sorry, busy.
The next story.
Oiling your wooden leg was.
No, it's. I'm sorry. The one of the hatches on the mum's just put the kettle on, basically. So yeah, I'm just going to oil my leg now. Don't mind me.
Hashtag awkward sounds. Anyway, moving on to the next story, and this one is on on the economictimes.indiatimes.com, and it's good news for Boeing. Indigo are eyeing up wide-bodied aircrafts from Airbus and Boeing to add to their fleet. So the Abu Dhabi-based Indian airline Indigo on Sunday said that it would like to add wide-bodied aircraft to their fleet, and it's an aspiration for the airline while it talks to manufacturers with ongoing talks as to when they're going to have these aircraft. But there is no firm timeline amid difficult market conditions in the Indian market. The budget airline, owned by Interglobe Aviation, faces fierce competition in the very price-sensitive Indian market, where carriers are struggling to remain profitable despite filling 90% of their seats and rising demand. Indigo recently reported steep fall in quarterly profit due to higher fuel prices, and continued pressure on yields reflecting price competition. Wide-bodied aircraft are an aspiration. We have talked to manufacturers and we are looking at A330neos and Boeing 787s, Chief Commercial Officer Willie Boulter said in Abu Dhabi, declining to go into details. Indigo, India's biggest low-cost carrier by market share, announced direct flights starting Monday from two South Indian cities, Kochi and Kozhikode, to Abu Dhabi, the capital of the United Arab Emirates. In the Gulf, the airline has directed flights to Dubai and Sharjah in the UAE, as well as Doha and Muscat, which is in Oman. Flights to Kuwait will be launched this week, to Saudi Arabia in November, and Hong Kong in December, Boulter said. In early 2019, Indigo plans to start flights to London with an A321, stopping at midpoint that is yet to be selected. He said other international destinations for launch include Kuala Lumpur and Phuket in Thailand in November. Indigo is working closely with the Indian government to take advantage of opportunities under a bilateral agreement where travel rights will become available for additional markets, he said, adding that Indigo has applied for rights to Europe and Asia. He said they're confident of bilaterals being expanded further, he said. Indigo has a fleet of 192 aircraft, and more than 400 aircraft on order. The first batch of A321neo aircraft with 222 seats will be delivered next month, he said. So it's definitely good news for Airbus and Boeing. I thought, well, definitely for Airbus anyway, with these 321neos.
Yeah, definitely. And this company have been doing a lot of stuff recently, haven't they, as well? They're opening up new routes and this sort of thing. And clearly, if they already have a fleet of 192 aircraft and more than 400 on order, that is some incredible stats, really, if you think about it.
That's a fair few aircraft to in the backlog that I think Airbus and Boeing already have in their build. But yeah. So moving on to the next story, Nev. This one is
it's a bit of a surprise. It's on the Euro Weekly News.
What's going on here, Nev?
Well, airline ditches summer routes from two UK airports to key holiday destinations in Spain. British Airways has announced it's dropping its summer-only routes from two UK airports to the Spanish holiday hotspots of the Costa del Sol and Mallorca. BA will terminate the routes from Birmingham and Bristol airports at the end of October 2018 and will not resume them in 2019. Carrier launched the services out of the two airports in summer 2017, marking the return to both airports after a 10-year break. There were 4 weekly departures from each of the airports to Malaga, Costa del Sol and Palma. BA City Flyer General Manager Luke Hayhoe said, "We have decided not to resume flights from Birmingham and Bristol next summer due to the complexity and cost of operating from airports where we have no crew bases." The airlines has said that it will reimburse the full amount to all customers who have already bought tickets for these routes. Again, that's a surprise to me, because I would have thought from both of those UK airports they could have got some good load factors to both of the Spanish destinations they're talking about there. But clearly up against a lot of competition with Easy and Ryanair, I would have thought.
Do you think some of it is because lots of people are perhaps not going on holiday as much as they were, or going abroad, should I say? They're still taking their holidays, but they're, it's a big buzzword, isn't it? The word of staycation. Do you think that's possibly what it is? People are actually opting to, holiday at home rather than go abroad.
Possibly, I think it is. I think, Nev, I think it's all basically down to price. When people are looking up flights, a lot of people nowadays use the search engines like Skyscanner to research flights. I know because I use it. And when you look for a flight, say to the Costa del Sol or Mallorca, one of these destinations here, I wonder how far down the list BA would come when you ran a search from any of the UK airports. What do you think, Nev?
Oh, well, I'm sure their prices were probably higher than the others, almost certainly. And it does depend on what they've got down route as well. Do they have a cruise base down there? Do they use their own staff for all the check-in and stuff, or do they subcontract that to somebody else? Whole load of reasons why they would have pulled the route, but they've only tried it for just over a year, 18 months by the looks of it, and they've clearly they've not.
But then also, flying in general has changed. We've talked about this before. People are not, people aren't sticking with an airline because they like BA like they used to. Do you know what I mean? It is literally a consumer market now. So everybody's basing their decision purely and simply on how much it's costing them to get from either Stansted or Heathrow or wherever it is they want to fly from. And that is the only decision they're making now, is purely a financial one. So if you're not competitive in that same market, then you're never going to win in this day and age, are you?
No.
Yeah, absolutely right. Yeah.
So, Matt, while you're there, and your bandwidth is still good. We're still receiving you loud and clear. What's the next story for you, Matt?
Yeah, so the next story, this is on the PRN, so it's the PRNewswire.com, and the headline is Boeing Business Jets delivers first BBJ MAX airplane. So this is good news. So Boeing Business Jets, BBJ, has delivered the first BBJ MAX airplane to a customer. The company announced today that the National Business Aviation Conference and Exhibition, the aircraft is scheduled to fly to an interior finishing centre. We are excited to begin delivering a longer range and more capable version of the world's most popular business jetliner, said Greg Laxton, who is the head of Boeing Business Jets. There has been great market interest and anticipation for the BBJ MAX, and our valued customers will soon be able to see the new standard in business travel. Customers from around the world have placed orders for 20 BBJ MAX aeroplanes. Most recently, Training Limited announced in July it was purchasing a BBJ MAX 7 at the Farnborough International Air Show. To delivery, unveiled a new interior concept by award-winning aviation design firm SkyStyle. The concept, named Genesis by SkyStyle co-founders Matt Pardo and Lucas Colombo, represents the company's debut in BBJ MAX design. Aviation designer's perspective, the BBJ MAX is because there is so much more interior space to realise one's vision, said Max Pardo. It's the MAX flight.
Oh, I do believe we may have lost Matt.
Yes.
Sorry, Matt. If you're still there, we've seemed to have lost you. He seems to have disappeared. Actually, while Matt was talking about a story, Nev, earlier on this week, I saw some pictures of the interior of the BBJ, the MAX one.
Oh, yeah.
There's one of these which has been all kitted out inside, and it looks phenomenal inside, Nev. Honestly, it is a whole other level of first-class flying. You've got lounge areas, sitting room areas. There's like bar areas. There's a huge one of these has had a huge shower room and kind of wet room inside as well, all built inside. And one of the lounge areas has got an enormous, must be at least 50-inch flat screen up against the side of the fuselage, which you can sit and watch from a rather large sofa as well. I don't know if you've seen the pictures of these, Nev.
I did, yes. And the other thing, of course, that's appealing to the operator of this is that it's capable of flying 7,000 nautical miles, which is going some, isn't it? And that means that they'll have great range, especially across the North Atlantic and things like that. So no, absolutely superb.
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get the chance to go on one somehow, though.
I know. Actually, I was going to say there was one of these at the Dubai Air Show last year, which I didn't get a chance to go on board because you had to sort of kind of pre-book a viewing round at the aircraft itself. But that was based on the Dreamliner, so you can imagine how big that thing was inside with all the lounges and stuff. But perhaps, Nev, you never know. We might get out to Dubai next year.
Be nice, wouldn't it? Yeah.
So
that definitely going forward.
You're back.
Oh.
Yes.
Hello, Matt. How are you?
Yes, very good. Sorry, I lost my internet connection there. It has been we've been sort of chancing our arm for a significant period of time. So I'm just I'm here for the moment anyway.
Oh, brilliant! I'm glad you're back, Matt. Moving on to the next story. And this one is on the Forbes.com website. And this story is, the headline is, with the first A380 on the scrap heap after just 11 years, Airbus bad bet now is painfully obvious. So it's obviously regarding the A380. So it says here, the story goes, bigger isn't always better. An Airbus's giant A380 double-decker aircraft capable of flying 8,000 nautical miles with 555 passengers in a conventional three-class configuration, or whopping 853 in an all-one class configuration, is almost too bizarre to contemplate. It's 277-ton primary example of that maxim. Next week will mark the 11th anniversary of the A380's celebrated entry into commercial service. But there have been only 230 of them delivered into airline service in all that time, and it only has orders on the books for another 100 or so of the aircraft. That compares quite poorly to the 875 such aircraft that Airbus officials in the early 2000s were predicting they'd sell by the end of 2019. Now the news is getting worse. The first 4 A380s delivered to airlines have already been retired. The first 2 of them, including the very first one to fly with Singapore, being parked at a remote airport in the Pyrenees Mountains, and that's being stripped of parts and engines so they can be sold on for spares. The estimated $40 million to $80 million that the parts and metal from one A380 will bring pales in comparison to the $250 million price that Singapore Airlines repeatedly paid for the first A380 and the $445 million of a new Airbus A380 today. $445 million for an A380, wow. To be sure, A380s will continue to serve and be seen at major airports around the world for at least another decade. But after just 11 years in service, the A380 program is already on the downhill slide towards its eventual unsuccessful end. Short of a miracle and comeback, the A380 will go down in aviation history as the victim of its own size and of Airbus's leadership's stubbornly mistaken belief that the market would favour fewer flights on enormous aircraft over higher frequency services using mid-sized planes on long-haul routes between the world's most popular or most populated cities. 11 years from delivery to being sold for parts is by any definition a very short lifespan indeed for a commercial aircraft. Most operate in customer service for more than 20 years, albeit oftentimes on 2 or 3 airlines during its life, but still performing as well, even after being sold to first world carriers to sell off. It's safe to say, I think, the 380 it's a popular aircraft with the obviously the Middle East airlines like Emirates, Etihad. Use these flying into the UK, and I have seen a report online this week that Emirates, they've got another 2 of their aircraft being fitted out at the moment, brand new A380s in Toulouse, ready for to be flown over to Dubai. But yeah, it's we talk about this aircraft quite a lot on the show, and we read similar stories that say that the 380 has kind of hit its peak and is now dropping down. But what do you reckon, Nev? You haven't yet had a chance to fly on a 380, have you?
No, I haven't. And I think that when you're designing aircraft like this, which is so different from anything else, apart from the 747 probably, it's all about timing, isn't it? And trying to work out what the market requires. And bearing in mind, Boeing, when they built the 747, it almost bankrupted the company for many different reasons. I mean, different ones for, the reasons that perhaps the Airbus A380 isn't, quite as popular as it was. But these things have a habit of, ebbing and flowing, don't they? So you never quite know what's going to happen. But certainly with the popularity of the 787 and the A350, I'm just wondering whether the market for the A380 isn't quite what people were expecting.
I mean, it's very popular with Emirates, isn't it? I mean, Emirates, they love their A380s, don't they?
Oh yeah. It's incredibly big part of the Emirates fleet. I mean, they have the largest fleet in the world of the 380s, as we all know, and that flies frequently into Heathrow and Gatwick. Quite a few flights a week, and all across the globe, and they use it to its maximum capacity. And every time I've flown on that aircraft, it has been packed. Every seat has been sold. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Really. I mean, you sort of, I don't know. It's a lovely aircraft. I mean, it was stunning. The one that was parked up at Farnborough when we were there, it was mind blowing. I mean, I've never seen you. I mean, you know it's all physics, but how on earth does this thing fly? It's stunning. It's just
as a passenger, having flown on the 380 a few times now, as a passenger, it's really comfortable, Matt. There's loads of room where the fuselage bows out at each side. You've got tons of room, even in economy, with the way that Emirates have them set out, and Qantas as well inside. And they're quiet. And they are actually quite quiet inside, to be fair. They obviously use a good grade of soundproofing in their fuselages, does Airbus. But hopefully, Matt, you'll get a chance to fly on one of the 380s sometime.
Yeah, right.
Save up those pennies, Matt. Save up those pennies. So, Nev, moving on to the next story, and it's another Airbus story for you.
Yeah, it's on the Economic Times website, and it says that in New Delhi, 4 of Go Air's Airbus A320neo aircraft fitted with Pratt & Whitney engines remain grounded in Delhi for want of spares from the American aerospace manufacturer. A person aware of the matter. Now, I thought that... I see, it's talking about the engines, right. Okay. I thought it was going to say that Airbus was an American aerospace manufacturer. Right? But another of the Mumbai-based airlines aircraft has pulled out of operations owing to an airframe-related issue, said the person who did not wish to be identified. A query emailed to Go Air did not elicit any response until late evening on Monday. Pratt & Whitney refused to comment on the matter. Indigo, another domestic airline which operates a fleet of Airbus A320neos fitted with Pratt & Whitney engines, has just one aircraft which is not operational but will start flying by Monday evening or Tuesday. Air India and Vistara also operate Airbus A320neos, but with CFM engines, and they haven't faced any issues with the aircraft. Engine carriers operate one of the largest fleet of Airbus A320neos fitted with Pratt & Whitney engines, with a total of 74 such aircraft. Indigo, which started operating a large fleet of these aircraft in April of last year, has faced most problems with the Pratt & Whitney engines so far. Following frequent failures on Airbus A320neo aircraft fitted with P&W engines, India's aviation regulator has imposed frequent checks on these aircraft, including inspections of engines after every 1,000 hours instead of every 1,500 hours, as sought by Pratt & Whitney, and repeat inspection every 500 hours. The stringent directive still remains in force. Other airlines are suffering too, since the grounded aircraft at busy airports at Delhi and Mumbai take away parking space. Parking space at these big airports is anyway difficult to get. With these groundings, premium parking space at these airports is gone. Someone should find a solution to this problem too, an executive of a competing airline said, on condition of anonymity. So there's no sources to this story whatsoever. But
engine issues.
Yeah, that can be, well, showstoppers, can't it? Really, literally.
Literally especially for BA and Virgin here in the UK, as we've seen
Yeah.
with the Dreamliners parked up everywhere. Matt, you're having a bit of a mare with your bandwidth, I think, aren't you? So
I am.
yeah, so we're gonna bid a fond farewell to Monsieur Smith, as he is he's just not having fun here, are you? With the his hand's gone all blurry, Nev.
Yes.
Matt, hello. No, his hand has gone a complete blur.
Oh, well.
Right, Matt, we're going to say back thanks for joining us, Matt. We shall muddle on here. I'm sure I'll press the right buttons and stuff, but just give everyone a quick wave before we go, Matt. There we go.
Bye.
Oh, there he is.
Hopefully, I'll get it sorted for next week. See you later.
Take care, Matt.
Bye. Bye.
Well, he did try. He did try, Nev.
Yeah.
To be fair, he did try. Bless him. And he is on a campsite in the middle of nowhere. And as you know, we live in the middle of nowhere here.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's even more in the middle of nowhere, if that's possible.
In the middle of nowhere.
Gosh. Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, going back to that story though, Nev. Yeah, it's a shame that there are so many issues with various engines around the world at the moment with the aircraft. Do you think, Nev, that technology is moving faster than the mechanics can keep up?
Possibly, but of course, it's all about safety, really, isn't it? And just like the Trent 1000s on the Boeing 787 Dreamliner, when you're introducing new technology engines, there's always going to be some teething difficulties. But of course, there's then the commercial pressures from the airline to get the thing in the air, because obviously they've made these massive investments and massive commitments to the aircraft. So it'll all be sorted out, because it always is. But when there's a brand new engine introduced, there are frequent difficulties, aren't there? So, yeah, I'm sure they'll get them sorted out there.
So the next story, moving on to the last story, and kind of a bit of a tech story, really. I think you should have took this now, but I'm sure you've got some good comments to make on it. This one is Heathrow's facial recognition tech could make airports more bearable. So the story goes on. It'll soon be quicker to move through airports. Heathrow is rolling out a facial recognition system to let passengers check in and drop off bags and get through security and board planes. Passports and boarding cards won't have to be removed from your pocket. The proposed system is similar to facial recognition systems already used at airport border controls, where a camera compares your face to the photo stored on the passport's embedded chip, like those automated gates. This will also be optional. When a passenger shows up at check-in, the system will take a digital image of their face, comparing it to the one on their scanned passport, and tying it to their flight details. When it's time to go through security and later to board the aircraft, facial recognition is used to open the automated gates rather than showing a boarding pass to a guard or scanning a barcode. We're really trying, they say, to remove the constant need to show your passport or boarding card through the journey, Simon Wilcox, Programme Manager for Automation at Heathrow, says. Heathrow has already been trialling the new technology this summer and says it's now ready for a wider rollout. Airport bosses say it plans to choose suppliers and link up various systems over the next several months in order to have the biometric system in place for summer 2019. The London airport isn't the first airport to turn to facial recognition. Shanghai's Hongai rolled out a similar check-in system this week, and the US is already trialling at some of their airports, while the Transportation Security Administration, the TSA, wants to extend it to domestic flights as well. As one of the busiest airports in the world, Heathrow is obsessed with efficiency, and staff say facial recognition will slash the time it takes to get through the airport by a third. However, this doesn't mean you'll be able to walk straight onto your flight. Facial recognition won't be significantly faster than scanning a pass to open automated gates at the bottleneck when finally boarding is created by passengers that take time to obviously put their bags in overhead lockers and settle into their seats. Longer term, the goal is for passengers to be able to walk straight through the airport without stopping. Not breaking your stride is absolutely what we aspire to do, Wilcox says. The facial recognition tech is about reducing friction in the passenger journey and to cut the amount of time needed to spend with tasks such as security check-in. Another way of putting it is by not adding unnecessary delays and processes and trying to get you through as quickly and securely as possible. What do you think of this, Nev, as kind of our tech guru on the show tonight?
Bit skeptical. Well, let's have a think about the e-passport stuff for a starter, shall we? I mean, my passport works 2 out of 6 times usually. The facial recognition that they use at Heathrow when I'm going through to on the domestic sectors, Heathrow to Edinburgh, that kind of thing, and Belfast, works half the time for me. I don't know. There's always going to be teething problems again with this sort of technology, and it's been trialed in various places, but I still think, and I think the biggest thing they're trying to do, let's be honest, they're trying to speed up the process, and we're all in favour of that. But if there's unreliability going through the systems and the gates aren't opening, then that just will cause an even longer queue. So I hope to be pleasantly pleased and surprised by this, but I have a feeling that there's going to be some slowness to begin with of this.
I've got to say, Nev, right, when you look at you're probably the same as me, when you look at your passport that that you've had, like mine, you've probably had for a few years, and if the cameras are using the picture that's stored on the chip, which is obviously the picture which is on the passport, I look similar-ish to the passport photo that I've got in actually on there. Is it going to be the tech going to be there good enough to kind of differentiate between what you look like now and what you look like, I don't know, 7 or 8 years ago when you had a beard and 4-foot moustache and all that sort of stuff?
Let alone people that don't show their faces.
Yes.
Just saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering how that's being dealt.
Very true. Very true.
So yeah, I think it's lots of work to go on there. I remember when I was at an exhibition, how many years ago was that? About 5 years ago, one of our suppliers was doing some tests of facial recognition, and they said, "Oh, would you like to give it a go?" And what they did was that the software estimated your age and gender, which I thought was great, except it identified me as a 35-year-old female. So that's obviously a bit difficult.
Actually, Captain Al says in the chat room that just look at Face ID on Apple, 80% success. Is this right? Is this right, Nev?
Not that good actually. It's the other thing that's a bit weird as well. This same company actually that was doing this facial recognition thing, I visited their offices in West London last year, I think it was, and they've got facial recognition to go into the various rooms, obviously, which sounds like a great idea, except you have to look at it really closely. So you have this very sort of weird situation where you end up sort of staring at this panel on the wall like you're in the naughty corner or something. And I'm just thinking, it's just, there's things that aren't right here. But we will see. They've got to do something, haven't they? Because those queues at security and so on are getting worse. So
actually, Micah's just said in the chat room, hello, Micah, facial recognition is a massive invasion of privacy that cannot ever be given back nor taken away. I'm surprised it's even legal in Europe based on the privacy laws. Yeah, I see what you're saying, Micah. Yeah, it's... I would imagine they've thought about all this kind of thing and as to how people would react to using this technology. Like I said, it's been trialled in Heathrow this year, and I know quite a few. I think most passport control places around the world now, Nev, have the camera setups at the booths where where you go and go through.
Yep.
Yeah. So that brings the commercial segment to a close. Nev, what is coming up next? It's a little something special from you, isn't it? An MPE.
It is, yes. Well, you've seen all the videos we've done at Farnborough this year, and thank you to everybody that took part. Just as we were packing up, though, there was an opportunity to have a chat with our listener friend, Barbara, about her passenger experience. And we had a chat in the press room there. And it was all about her passenger experience on Jet 2. So let's have a listen and a watch of that. So here we are at Farnborough 2018. What a great day it's been so far. Weather looks set fair again. And with me is Barbara Parish, and we're going to talk about one of her passenger experiences. So hello, Barbara.
Hello, Nev.
So tell me about the last flight that you took.
Well, the last flight I took was with Jet2 to Prague. The flight was very, very good. I have to say that I was very impressed with all the Jet2 staff. Yeah, if I just start with a story with a check-in, it was quite eventful really, and just goes to show how helpful they were. My mother and I wanted to take some presents to Prague, and we thought, well, what can we take? Well, something traditionally British, food. So we bought lots of clotted cream pots, scones, a Melton Mowbray pot pie, and Stilton cheese. And we knew we could take the food to Prague. And unfortunately, somehow all the security rules slipped our minds regarding all the clotted cream and the food. When we got to the airport, we checked in our luggage. We were going to take one holder bag, so we went to the check-in desk, very helpful. Suitcase went through. Then we went to security, and my mum noticed a sign saying no spreadables. Now all the clotted cream, all the food had been put into our hand luggage. So massive panic. So we were led to the Jet2 desk, and they were fantastic. They said, don't worry, we'll get your bag out of the bag and we'll swap it all over for you. They got the bag, they got the suitcase, and it really did look very ridiculous, taking all the clothes out, putting all the food back in. We couldn't even take the Melton Mowbray pie. That was a security hazard. So they were fantastic. Then I lost the lock, so she gave me a tie. So we kept apologising, but they were brilliant. So yeah, and then the flight was fantastic. Cabin crew, very smiley, very helpful. I decided to have the full Jet2 experience and have food, because usually I won't eat the food. I can make do without it for 2 hours. So I had the cheese and tomato toasty, which was fine. It filled a hole. And a roll, water. Mum had a coffee. She said that was fine. I thought that the loos were slightly smaller than usual, and perhaps the seats could have had more padding. And I think there was a lot more people jammed into this plane than I remember. So, yeah, it was fantastic. And actually, what was lovely was that the captain made an announcement as we were passing Rotterdam. He said, if you have a look now out of the plane, out the window, you will see Rotterdam, which is very rare these days for a captain to make that kind of announcement. So that was lovely. Yeah, so food was fine. And also, I decided to have, as I said, the whole Jet2 experience. So I bought a scratch card. That was the first time I've ever bought a scratch card. Didn't win a bean, but that was fine. And then, at the end of the flight, I decided to make Carlos proud. I'd go to the cockpit, say hello. So I did. Introduced myself and told him about Plane Talking UK podcast, Airline Pilot Guy. And I think it was Captain Richard and First Officer Jordan. And I asked them what plane would they love to fly. If they could fly any plane, what would it be, past or present? And Captain Richard said this. He said, the de Havilland Mosquito FB6, which is a fighter bomber made in the 1940s. And then First Officer Jordan said the Sopwith Camel, the British First World War biplane. And I said, why? And he said, I just love the name, so I'd love to fly it. And coming back, I did the same. And Captain Ron said he'd love to fly a Spitfire. And First Officer Cav said he'd like to fly a McDonnell Douglas DC-10, 3-engine wide-body jetliner. So yeah, I made Carlos proud. There you go. Flying Jet2 is value for money. and I couldn't fault them. You know, if you fly for very little money, you can't expect everything to be absolutely perfect, absolutely right. And coming back from Prague, we were delayed by about 20 minutes because the refuelling truck was nowhere to be seen. So that was all quite a problem. But the captain kept us informed, and he apologised, and he actually said to us, "I will get you back home 5 minutes earlier." There was an incident also on the plane with somebody who had a nut allergy, and I think sometimes people can joke about Jet2, but the airline, I think, is fantastic. But sometimes the people that fly on the plane are the ones who can cause the problem. And we had loads and loads of male groups flying back from Prague, stag do's. Some were, well, they weren't very drunk, but you could tell they'd been drinking. And when we got on board, they made the announcement that they weren't selling any food with nuts in, and we were not to eat any food with nuts in because there was somebody on board with a nut allergy. So we took off flying, started the food service, and as the trolley got to me, I noticed that the cabin crew lady, she looked at a young man who was sat next to me just one row back, eating a whole box of Ferrero Rocher. And she said, "You can't eat that." And he looked at her, dumbfounded. He obviously hadn't heard the announcement. And he made a little bit of an issue with it, with all his mates. His mates joined in, they were laughing at her. And she explained, "Look, we have somebody with a nut allergy." And he said, "Well, in that case, can I have a free tea and a free chocolate from your trolley, please?" And she said, "No." So she dealt with it so well. But, you know, these are the people that you're dealing with, and you can't blame the airline. They're trying to do their best.
Well done, Nev. As always, sterling work.
Yes, it was good, wasn't it? And yes, good chat with Barbara there, and yeah, interesting to hear how nice Jet2 is, isn't it? A lot of people have said good things about that airline.
Yeah, you know, we've ran stories in the past, you know, saying like Jet2 and how they can be a bit dubious sometimes with some of the stories that we've had in the past. But you know, they've actually, I think, in the last kind of year, they are becoming quite a force within the UK now. I think especially for the package holiday segment, and they're obviously running the adverts on the TV. One of which I think Tony S said in the chat room just while we were doing the segment there about the Jess Glynn song running for 3 hours. But no, I you know, hands up, I'll definitely give them a try, see what the service is like. I know they do have quite some of their fleet is old.
737 300s, I think. In some cases.
Exactly. But they do actually, Nev. They have one of the 757s. I think they've got a few of those in their fleet as well, which is always a pleasure to fly on. But
yeah.
So. Coming up next, then, we have got some military news. So if you're ready, Nev.
I am, yes, always up for a bit of grey.
Oh, yes, let's go. So some military news in this week. We've got a few stories. First one is on the Royal Air Force's website, and the headline, RAF Voyager refuels F-35B for the first time in the UK. So the Royal Air Force's Voyager air-to-air refuelling tanker has completed the first UK refuel of the F-35B Lightning II jets. The refuelling took place on the 16th of October 2018 over the North Sea at 19,000 feet. The Voyager, based at RAF Bryce Norton, home of the Royal Air Force's air mobility fleet, is no stranger to refuelling fast jets, being the Royal Air Force's sole AAR capability. The Voyager KC Mark II is equipped with 2 underwing pods for refuelling fast jets, and the Voyager KC Mark III has an additional centerline hose for use by larger aircraft. And the F-35 Lightning B-2 is the Royal Air Force's newest combat aircraft, operated by 617 Squadron, based at RAF Marham in Norfolk. Whee, Norfolk. This multi-role aircraft can conduct missions including air-to-air surface, electronic warfare, intelligence gathering, and air-to-air simultaneously. And it's safe to say that with at least these aircraft now are in the UK, they're starting to prove themselves. We've obviously seen the various pictures and stuff on local news. I think we had some on our Anglia news here in on the east coast of the UK of these jets in action here in the UK, and being up and close to one of these as well a few years back at Riyadh, that was pretty awesome. You know, we're not massive grey fan people here, are we, Nev? But we do love to see these aircraft up close and personal.
Very much so. Yeah, definitely. And no, sounds good, isn't it? Things are moving on there, which is good stuff. Good stuff.
So next story, Nev.
Yeah, it's on the drive.com website, and it says that the US Air Force frantically stole parts from one RC-135 to get another airborne to spy on a missile launch.
Ooh.
It's no secret that the US's Air Force aging but vital RC-135 spy planes have been breaking down at an increasingly worrisome rate for years now, often forcing the cancellations of important missions. Now, information from a declassified official unit history provides an especially clear example of how these problems can have cascading impacts on operational readiness and put the US's military's ability to gather critical intelligence at risk when it matters most. In 2016, one of the Air Force's three RC-135S Cobra Ball aircraft suffered an unspecified maintenance issue whilst being deployed to RAF Mildenhall. This would have rendered it unable to perform its scheduled mission, which was to collect information on the launch of an unknown ballistic missile system. The Cobra Bull aircraft have specified equipment to track these types of weapons and gather telemetry and other electronic intelligence data, as well as visual imagery on them and their test flight operations. The required part would have not have arrived at RAF Mildenhall before the predicted missile launch window. The 2016 history for the 25th Air Force, the Air Force's top intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance unit, explained. If the new part could be found by cannibalizing another RC-135 or KC-135 air refueling aircraft, then the mission could proceed. We at the War Zone obtained this document via the Freedom of Information Act. Censors redacted the exact date of the incident, the targets of the RC-135S's mission, and what intelligence the crew was ultimately able to collect. We do not know. What we don't know is that the Cobra Ball was able to fly its mission in the end, thanks to some quick thinking on the part of the US Air Force Technical Sergeant Michael Smith, a liaison from the 25th Air Force's Logistics Division. He was the one who the history credits with suggesting that the maintenance crews take the necessary part from another C-135 based aircraft to get the RC-135S flying again. Well, yes, I'm sure, but that probably happens all the time, doesn't it? You cannibalize bits off of one aircraft to stick it onto another one if it's unserviceable. So that's probably a massive oversimplification, I realise, but that's the sort of thing that engineering departments do, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this aircraft, don't forget as well, was based on the 707, if you remember, Nev.
Yeah.
And obviously been re-engined and had a bit of a change to its wings. I think it was strengthened and had various bits and pieces added on to it. But although they are obviously using bits and pieces off other aircraft to keep these going, you know, to the fact that these aircraft are getting on a bit now and still flying does prove a point, though, that they are incredibly good aircraft at what they do.
Oh, exactly, yeah. Absolutely.
So next story is on the Flight Global's website, and it's a bit of a sad story. It's regarding the F-16 Thunderbird investigation of the fatal crash. Then the crash investigation has been released by the US Air Force, and the US Air Force concluded in an accident investigation report that a fatal Lockheed Martin F-16CM Thunderbird crash on the 4th of April was a result of the pilot suffering loss of consciousness caused by an 8.56G manoeuvre. The mishap took place during practice of the high show version of the Thunderbird's aerial demonstration on the south part of Nevada Test and Training Range near Creech Air Force Base, Nevada, or Creech Air Force Base, Nevada. And Major Stephen Del Bagno, a former F-35A pilot, died in the crash. Prior to the loss of consciousness and near the secluded, or scheduled end, I should say, of the aerial demonstration training flight, the pilot spent approximately 22 seconds in verted flight between 5.5 and 5,700 feet above level ground during the high bomb burst rejoin maneuver. After transitioning into a descending half-loop maneuver, also called a split S, the pilot experienced a gravity-induced loss of consciousness, became completely incapacitated for a period of time, and was fatally injured on impact with the ground without an ejection attempt. Lockheed Martin's airborne collision avoidance system, Auto GCAS, is supposed to prevent aircraft crashes caused by a pilot's loss of consciousness by automatically overriding the flight controls and steering the aircraft away from the ground. Lockheed Martin's airborne collision avoidance system is supposed to prevent the crashes caused by pilots' loss of consciousness. However, the software was not uploaded onto the F-16 Thunderbird that crashed in April. Auto GCAS has successfully saved several F-16 pilots' lives. However, it's not currently installed in F-16 Block 52s flown by the Thunderbirds, said the USAF. The Air Force will be installing this upgrade in all its Thunderbird jets in November 2018, following the completion of the current season. Lockheed Martin did not immediately respond to a request for comment. I'll tell you what, Nev, for the sake of a piece of software, that's a real shame.
Yeah, it isn't it? And that's all. I mean, everything is all software driven and firmware driven these days, isn't it? So
yeah,
yep.
It's such a shame. So Nev, what have we got coming up next?
Oh yes, next some more excellent video feedback from Ray Davis. He's been at the Warbirds Down-Under show in Temora in Australia, and he was there last week, I believe. So let's hear his latest report.
G'day listeners, it's Ray from Down Under again. It's currently day 2 here at Temora, Warbirds Down-Under. The time is currently 20 past 9 in the morning, and as you can see around me, there's a lot of people. So yeah, we've got quite a bit. As you can see behind me, we've got the C-130J Hercules, and just this green monstrosity behind us is the old Caribou that's now been replaced by the C-27 Spartan. And so yeah, there's quite a few modern planes here, as well as the old venerable Warbirds. So behind me in the distance you'll see that there's an old Ryan monoplane, followed by the Tiger Moth, as everyone knows, and right behind me now, for good old main man Micah, is the Catalina. And yes, folks, it does fly, and it does actually go on the water as well. So as you can see, we've got quite a lot happening here today. Unfortunately, the weather hasn't been too crash hot. The wind has done no benefits to us whatsoever, but we've still had some flying yesterday. Unfortunately, due to phone reception and so forth, I could only manage to send videos, so hopefully the boys back there will play them out again. And yeah, so from Temora, New South Wales, Australia, this is your reporter for PT UK signing off. Take care. Catch you on the flip side.
You know, it's safe to say, Nev, it's nice to see that not only us here in the UK have a bit of cloudy and windy weather doing air shows, but that was great, Ray. Thanks for sending that over to us. It was nice to see how things are done over in Australia. Nev, I think we need to win the lottery and go to all these air shows over.
Yeah. But no, thank you, Ray. Once again, brilliant job, sir. Keep them coming. That was fantastic. Very good.
So, Nev, we've got something very special coming up next.
We have. And when Al was with us at Farnborough, he said, "Oh, Nev, can I borrow a microphone and recorder from you so I can do some stuff at Oshkosh?" And I thought, "Oh no, what we're going to come back with now?" But I needn't have worried, because he has come back with some cracking interviews, and it's another one. This time he was speaking to Mikey McBrian, who some of you may have seen. He was part of the Pilots television documentary series that portrays Buffalo Airways, which is an airline based in Yellowknife in the Northwest Territories in Canada. And it's some really interesting stuff, and it's some nice pictures to go with it as well. So let's go over to Captain Al.
So it's Captain Al at Oshkosh once again, and I'm joined by aviation royalty. It's Mikey McBrian. How are you doing?
Oh, Al, thanks for having me on here. It's quite the awesome thing here. I know you can't really get it on the voice waves, where we're literally underneath the wing of a B-29, an A-10 Warthog, and some big UPS jet. What is that, an MD-11?
Spot on, but I'm not an expert, but yep, that's an MD-11. You're quite right.
I wish we had those up in Canada. We painted green and haul a lot of poppin' chips.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, how many times have you been to Oshkosh now?
Well, I've only been to Oshkosh twice, and the first time was on an episode of Ice Pilots, and it was amazing. And actually, it felt like it was like last year. It was only until I looked at it that I realized that was 2010. We're in 2018. I did the math, and it's amazing. It's weird because in Yellowknife, this is actually our busy time, firefighting, and the cargo is going nuts because the ice roads are all melted. But on the flip side is that it's a lot of people. And in the Northwest Territories, it's 40,000 people, twice the size of Texas. So there's literally more people in my vision right now than there is in my whole territory. So it's a little overwhelming.
It is. I mean, it's my first visit to Oshkosh. I've been to a few air shows, and I think the word awesome is overused, but I think in the context of Oshkosh, awesome is the word.
Oh, everything's here. It's just amazing. Like, what was that? Like, something just flew over, and you don't even have time. There's a Bell 47 behind you. Something's flying behind me. If you're an aviation nut, everything's here. And if it's not here, it's going to be here next year, so you better come next year.
Absolutely. So a little personal insight to me. I first became acquainted with the ice pilots when I had a serious injury. So I was laid up at home. So I watched all episodes of all 6 series back to back.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Well, sorry to hear about you being injured, but it was good that we got some entertainment. Some Canadians trying to haul freight. Who would ever thought that'd be entertaining? But
well, I mean, after the first series, did it come as a surprise to you, the sort of worldwide interest in if you don't mind me saying, a relatively small airline tucked away in a fairly quiet part of Canada?
Yeah, you know what? Like in your freezer, you got that. That microwave meal that you forgot in the very back, and that's what Buffalo Airways was. Like, there was DC-3 experts that had never heard of us, even though we've been flying DC-3s since the mid-'70s. So we were like aviation's best kept secret. And then TV comes along, and now it's it's a very niche household name basically, and it's very cool. We never ever thought it would get to anything above this. Like, we're just from the north, right? And it's pretty cool to walk around here and for people to stop you and from all over the U.S. here and to say how much they like the show and stories too. It's weird how Ice Pilots really connects a lot of people to their own past, their uncle or their father or their granddad was in a DC-3 or any airplanes. They can kind of relate and kind of live vicariously through Ice Pilots, which is an unintended benefit that is pretty cool.
Absolutely. Now, obviously, there were the 6 series, and for the outside world, outside of Canada, there was what happens now? So what has happened to Buffalo Airways since the ending of the TV program? Because, like TV programs, sometimes people think, well, actually, was this real or was this just like a drama? But, TV being TV, yeah, there's an element of drama, but it was just following your day-to-day stuff. So where are we now? So bring us up to date.
Well, that's a very good question, because I get things like from people talking about the show being 100% accurate, like there's music playing and fast editing in real life too. It was all staged. Like, I get everything in between. And the reality of the show was it was pretty spot on. And spot on to the fact now is I watched the show, those are the memories I have now. They erased the real memories, and my memories are on the show. So moving forward, the big thing is we retired the DC-4s. And the Electras are now doing the firefighting and all the freight hauling, which is really expanded on where we go because of the avgas situation. Getting avgas is virtually impossible north of Norman Wells. So that moving forward, another thing that's came out of nowhere is King Air 100s. The King Air 100 is the new DC-3 for us because we have 5 of them operating right now, and they're doing some crazy missions all over to the high Arctic, moving people around, judges, lawyers, anything you want. We're like a taxi. We're like Uber. We're like Northern Uber. You phone us up, and we'll take you King Air anywhere. So that's still going. The CL-215s have been retired officially. There's actually one here, a Tanker 291. Arnie used to fly. They've been placed by the Air Tractor 802 Firebosses. Brand new airplanes. They only got about 200 hours on them. And that's including the time they're flying right now. So we got the oldest and the newest airplanes in the Northwest Territories, probably even in Canada. And so that's kind of the up-to-date thing. Besides that, I just encourage everybody to come up to Yellowknife and see for yourself. Like I always joke that, you're used to the TV show, might as well come up and watch the live studio audience. Get a live track going. Yeah,
I'm sure Visit Canada were extremely grateful for you bringing the Northwest Territories to the global audience. So you mentioned that you're operating brand new aircraft. That must be a mindset change within the airline, because historically you've operated historic aircraft.
Yeah, it's now warranty. We never had that before. You ever tried to call Douglas or Curtis? You need a Ouija board.
That's awesome. So we ask every guest on the show whether you're a pilot or not. So if you had the opportunity to be a pilot or a passenger on any airplane, living or dead, so in current production or one that's in museums or even in distance past, what aircraft would you choose?
Not a hesitation, SR-71 Blackbird. That would be the coolest thing in the world. You get to wear a space suit, and you get to go faster than anybody. The SR-71 Blackbird, I would trade everything. For that.
It's a really cool aeroplane. I have to say it was the first model aeroplane that I ever owned, and it's a very commonly given answer to the question. Personally, for me, I go for Concorde because you can sip the champagne whilst being up in space level.
Yeah, and it's not error correct, it's country correct for you.
Absolutely. Well, I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your very valuable time here at Oshkosh. And let's go buy some aeroplanes.
Yeah, I got my dad's checkbook. Let's go.
Find this and other great shows at the Aviation Media Network.
thevoicesinyourhead.com.
The Plain Talking UK podcast is a voluntary project that aims to keep you informed with the latest aviation-related stories from newswires across the globe.
Producing our content does cost money though. If you enjoy our show, why not help us keep on the air by making a donation towards the server and website hosting fees through PayPal. Any contributions would be greatly appreciated.
Are you an Amazon user? If so, why not do your shopping through the link on our website? There's no cost to yourself, and Amazon pay us a small referral fee on qualifying purchases.
To find out more about the show and to meet the team, take yourself to our website www.plaintalkinguk.com,
or find us on Facebook at facebook.com/plaintalkinguk, on Twitter via @plaintalkinguk, or get in touch via email on podcast@plaintalkinguk.com. Thanks for listening.
Flybe 5823, Trent Dane for 23-hour Manchester, Wizz Air 6X, climb flight level 210, direct to Bretlands Park. United 123, maintain 280 knots. London 2TME, turn right onto Bravo, link 21 join Alpha, hold at Mora, Speedbird 472, LOC/DME, approach runway 27 left, follow the green stand 544.
That's enough air traffic control for today, Nat. Bedtime.
Have you ever wondered what it would be like to fly a commercial passenger jet? Looked up at the sky and thought, I wish that was me? Well, now anyone has the chance to have a go at flying in a real aircraft simulator. NP Simulations and Flight Experience London, the only official Boeing licensed product of its kind in the UK, offer you the chance to fly anywhere in the world in their fixed base Boeing 737-800 flight simulator. And that's not all. Ground School London offers many different courses for the up-and-coming pilot looking for a start in aviation. With prices starting at just £109, the sky's the limit. So for the ultimate flight simulator experience, or engaging preparatory courses, including those for schools and colleges, check out the websites at www.london.flightexperience.co.uk and www.groundsschoollondon.com or call on 020 300 40 616. NP Simulations. Fly your dreams.
I think it's safe to say, Nev, that Al totally excelled himself there.
Smashed it, hasn't he? Absolutely. What a great interview that was, Al, and thanks ever so much for doing that. That was very, very interesting indeed. A bit of an insight about the challenges of flying those sorts of aircraft in that part of the world. And we often complain, here in, the UK and Europe, oh, it's getting a bit cold today. But then you look at that part of the world, and did you see? I don't know if you saw the on the video there, the frostbite some of these guys were getting as well. It looked absolutely horrendous, didn't it?
I absolutely loved that series. I remember watching pretty much every episode when it was on. I think it was on Discovery when I used to watch it, and it was just some of the action scenes and stuff and the stories and stuff. They had engine failures and all various bits and stuff on that series, and it was great. And to sort of listen to Al actually talking to Mikey, one of the quite the sort of main characters on that series, was so cool. Well done, Al.
Yeah, brilliant. And Al was just saying in the chat room, he's a genuinely nice fella, and that definitely comes across, doesn't it? Very much so.
Yeah,
So brilliant, nice one, Al. Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Al. So I suppose we better wrap up the show, I suppose, Nev, haven't we?
Yes,
it's been quiet.
It has, but
we have got something to do first, though, haven't we?
We have.
We missed it last week.
We did, and of course, we couldn't do this show without your help, dear listeners, and that's what's contributed to our upgrade of the broadcast tower, which has gone down very well. So here is a list of the current contributors to Plain Talking UK. They are Adam Spink, Adrian Meacham, Andrew Wilson, Captain Jeff, Eric Graves, Evan Shue, Graham Haley, Jeff Ward, Jonathan Warner, Jordan Rose, Liz Piper, Matt Caton, Matt Donnemeyer, Matthew Bunting Frame, Myla, Neil Lamborn, Nick Anderson, Nico Regger, Philip Labe, Ray Williams, Ruben Wells, Ryan Harper, Stuart Backer, Stephanie Plummer, Steve Andress, Stuart Black, York Moeller, Tony Stubbings, Jennifer Parkinson, and Tom Thomas. Thank you, one and all.
Yeah, thank you to everyone who contributes to the show. Couldn't put the music on now. I'm sure you've all missed the music there, but it didn't seem to work when I pressed the button, so there we go. But no, it's a massive thanks to everyone who does donate to the show, because it has obviously enabled us to have the new tower, which is just below the table, below me here, through this studio table. But I've been looking at it during the show, and 21%, Nev.
Matt will be pleased with that.
Yeah, Matt will be pleased with that. But no, we've got social media links. Where can everyone find us, Nev?
Right, well, it's on the website. It's plaintalkinguk.com. If you'd like to send us an email, it's podcast@planetalkinguk.com. And if you'd like to interact with us on Twitter, it's @planetalkinguk.
And don't forget, if you want to run over to the website and click on, you can find yourself the links to grab yourself one of the PT UK T-shirts as well from there. And you can also click on the live button where you can find the show live each week. If in case you're listening to the show with the audio downloads at the moment, you can click on that, and that'll take you to where we're streaming the live show right now, so you can interact with the chat room, because the chat room are a huge part of the show, aren't they, Nev? They certainly keep us entertained.
And we're going to have a few of our chat room chums on a little bit of a meetup that we're having on Monday.
What's happening there, Nev? Tell everyone.
Short notice, I know, but Philip Davis, Nick Anderson, myself, and who else is coming? Oh, Dave Willis and Pilot Pip are going to meet down by the Heathrow Academy, which is just on the perimeter ring road. And there's a bit of a spotting canopy there. So I'm going to be bringing my camera and my fluffy mic down there. I've even got a filming permit for Heathrow.
You have, yeah.
Yes, because I just don't want to take any chances, frankly. So we'll be doing some interviews down there, which will play out on next week's show. And if anyone is around, we'll be down there for most of the day. Philip Davis is going to be there from 6 a.m., which is extremely keen. I'm not that keen, so I'll be there about 9. So.
Oh, I tell you, if I had some holiday, Nev, I would have joined you on the day, because that sounds like it's going to be an awesome amount of fun had there.
I hope so. I think the weather's going to be nice too, which is important.
So that is this coming Monday. Yeah, and if they want to get there at 6 a.m, they can. If they can, but
good luck with that.
Good luck. But obviously, if you want to meet Nev, kind of turn up around the sort of mid-morning time, and Nev will be there.
So we're going to try and do a bit of lunch. There's a cafe nearby, so we're going to have some nosh there as well. So anyone that's around will be very welcome to join us.
And you're going to do some filming as well, Nev. You're going to have a chat with some of the people down there, which will be fun, and we'll have that on a later show for everyone to see. Yeah, exactly. Can't wait for that. So we're going to bring to a close the show. It's been a bit strange not having Matt here, I will say.
I know. all that nice wheezy laughter and that comedy, it's just missing, isn't it?
But next week I have got someone joining me in the studio. Armando's going to take a little trip over to see us next week, and he's going to assist me in next week's show, along with you, hopefully, Nev, on Friday, if all being well. Yeah. And so that is basically where we are going to draw the show to a close. So Matt, if you are watching from the caravan on your the caravan Wi-Fi, which is not very good.
He did do quite well to begin with, didn't he? He just sort of out at the end of it.
Oh, poor Matt. I don't know, but join us for obviously for episode 240 next week. A massive thanks to everyone again who's joined us in the live chat room tonight. All the family are in there as always. I hope you have a great weekend, whatever you're doing across the globe. I'm sure you'll all be having the usual roast dinners on Sunday, which I'm looking forward to this week, because Gemma says apparently we've got roast chicken with stuffing this week.
Nice.
So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. So that's it then from me, Carlos, here in the PTUK studios, all alone. And from Nev, we're going to say a big goodbye. So take care, everyone. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.
Okay, guys. See you. Bye-bye. There we go.
I can't believe it. I've done it.